there's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
We need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys need to cover a Derek Trucks song.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride, you know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was midnight in Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
What's up? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 188, and I am Adam Choi. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe on YouTube. I appreciate that. Like the videos, share the videos. I'll get an audio version of this episode as well. I'll probably get that out tomorrow sometime, or maybe even later tonight. We'll see. I'll do my best. We're on Odyssey and iHeartRadio now as well, if you listen to podcasts there. Patreon.com/TTB podcast to support. That's definitely appreciated. A portion at the second of your contribution at the second two tiers do get donated to the Mr. Holland's Opus Music Foundation in honor of Kofi, of course, as well. So your support is appreciated on two fronts. Thank you, Kathleen, Stacy, Troy, Daniel, Mariah, Bo, and Marion for the support for sure. Thank you, Tracy Thaler, for setting up this one and giving me the recommendation to reach out to the one and only Jenny Shuman. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You can correct me, of course, if I got it wrong there. But we're going to talk about her artwork and her craft of creating amazing guitar straps and tapestries. And she's worked with Oteil Burbridge and Dwayne Betts and Derek and so many countless artists that are in this beautiful book that she sent me that I'm holding upside down and now right side up. But let's bring in Jenny and get started with the conversation. What's cooking?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, not bad. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Means so much, and I'm so excited to get to finally talk to you and connect with you. How are you and where are you?
I'm in Eugene, and I'm great. It's super fun to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so Oregon.
Oregon, yes.
Nice. So your life has been quite a journey from what I gather.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
And geographically and professionally, spiritually, all of the above. Like from what I gather. Why don't we start with your journey, and then we'll eventually get into Derek and Susan and TTB and where you first crossed paths with them and all that. Because I could talk about them the entire episode, but maybe that's not the best. Because if we still talk about them now, I won't learn about you at all, or I'll learn less about you. Why don't you?
Well, but then I would learn more.
What's that?
I said then I would learn more, and that's all okay.
True, maybe. Yeah. Why don't we start with your background and tell me like where you grew up and your family life and sort of early music memories. I kind of ask people to tell me about like their musical history, and life fills in the gaps, kind of.
Right on. Well, I grew up in West Michigan, so just north of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I mean, it was just kind of a normal upbringing, had a wonderful family. It was my sister and I and my parents, and, just kind of normal in that respect. I was always artistic. I always wanted to draw or craft, knit, something like that with my grandma all the time. And so I did that a lot. And then the first time I went to a powwow, a Native American powwow at Riverside Park in Grand Rapids, was that, oh my gosh, this I know, you're just like a coming home kind of a thing. And I was young. I was 14, 15 when I went to my first powwow. And by then I was already into the Grateful Dead. So that already had happened. The first concerts, the first musical concerts, I mean, that's silly, right? I was 11 and I think it was Corey Hart. So maybe not so much that. But yeah, I mean, by the time I was 15, I was into the Dead, and Zeppelin is at my core, and all the good things, you know, back in the day when they still had the Time Life cassette tapes of the eras that you could get, you know. I had the 60s and the 70s little cassette tapes, and that was a lot of fun. And you know, it just opened a doorway into that whole, the freedom of expression that comes with that generation and art, and it's kind of inseparable. So going back to Pow-Wow and how I got introduced to beadwork, I had my daughter when I was 16. And so while all of my friends left to follow the Grateful Dead or go off to college or of that nature, I was still in school. So that summer, right after I turned 17, I was at Pow-Wow and I got my first loom. And it was like one of those, you know, those wiry looms that you get when you're a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout, you know, those really cheap little ones. And my girlfriend and I split the cost of it and came home, and she played for a little while with it and then brought it over, and I strung it up, and I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing. And then that year for Christmas, my uncle made me my first wooden loom. So my mom had this whole package that she gave me for Christmas with beads and graph paper and needles and thread and all of the things, and this beautiful adjustable wooden loom. And yeah, I just never stopped beading. I just
and the loom, yeah, the loom is the tool that you, the little, I'm like Googling pictures. It's like the spool almost that you use to
so this is, yeah, this is,
yeah.
I mean, and here's a, yeah, this is the scrap loom, oops, that I have. So they come in all different sizes.
Right.
My first loom was like a fraction of this one. So, yep, and it's adjustable here, and got all my fun stickers.
And you have, and part of your background is Native American, and that's a big part of your identity and all that. What role did that play up until your life, until you discovered or went to your first powwow? And I want to hear more about that, because I want to just like learn more. So like powwow is essentially, from even listening to you and Oteil talk about it, it sounds like it's like a convention, like a national convention of a bunch of tribes, and you're celebrating cultural aspects of the tribes. Is that
sure? Well, I think, yeah, like Gathering of Nations, the one where Oteil and I were together in Albuquerque for the Gathering of the Nations, that is all the nations. I mean, and they even bring in Aborigines and just native tribes from all over the world are represented at Gathering of Nations, and that is very intense. So I traveled powwow for years with my daughter, and that's where it's inseparable again from what I learned and what I do now, because when you travel, you're immersed into the culture, right? I mean, that's what we did. Is Julia would dance every weekend at powwow, and I would sell beadwork. And I was around all of the elders and the bead suppliers and everybody who knew this craft so very well. And so when I would pull the string too tight, they'd be there to So you learn really quick, because you want to please your elders for sure. But it's also like that spiritual side of everything, right? The intention that goes into everything that you do was just instilled in a very, very true way while at powwow. I mean, and I have, upbringing, going to church and all the things, from my mom. And you realize no matter what the spiritual atmosphere is, it's the spiritual atmosphere. It's all one and the same. It's just so neat to see it come together in the Native American culture, because it's every little thing does matter. If there's a mistake to be made, I remember thinking, oh no, and believe me, I go back and fix mistakes, don't get me wrong. But there are mistakes in every single piece I make. And I had an elder tell me, that's great, that's perfect, because there's only one perfect. There's only one, and it's the creator. It's not you. You're imperfect. We're all imperfect. So let that be the little homage that you pay in every piece. So.
And I'm guessing that no artist has ever come back to you with a strap and said, oh, here, I noticed that this is a mistake or something like that. It's because it's such a small thing that only you as the creator would notice one bead, one micro something was off. Is that
Well,
kind
it's fun to point out though, like after they've had it, it's like, oh, did you see that one little spot where there's this black bead where it's supposed to be a dark green bead? And they're like, no, but now I can't unsee it. But when
I was gonna say, I wonder if that's kind of like, you know, fans listening to TTB, because especially me, I have this like very biased, unconditional love for the band, and I think that they're, you know, the most talented band out there. So like when, you know, I brought up on the podcast, we've had conversations like, oh, do they have some nights where they're not feeling it as much as others? They must be more sensitive to like the minutia and not perfectionism, but like that type of thing where,
the self-critic.
You know, you notice something that fans and even the people you're working for, making the strap for, might not notice.
Right. I mean, absolutely. Of course, I can see if there's, because even though the beads are all one size, there's different lots. There's, I mean, most of my beads are Czechoslovakian. I don't switch over because there is such, even if it's like a millimeter times 32 inches adds up. And that's just really frustrating. But, you know, I mean, there's always mistakes that are made that other people wouldn't be able to see. And I mean, we're always our own biggest critic, you know. And sometimes, yeah, just like a band might be a little bit off. Just a little bit. Beadwork might just be a little bit off, but you know, luckily I can just put the loom down, and if I'm off, you know, sometimes I'm not there and I have to know when to walk away.
Is it that beading is what kind of called out to you? Because you could have chosen, and I don't know for whether or not maybe you do have other artistic endeavors, passions, hobbies, whatever, but like, is it that specific thing that for whatever reason that called out to you? Because you could have been, you said you did do some drawing and painting and maybe things like that as well.
I still apply, right? The drawing is absolutely employed because I do draw the designs based on communication, right? So we communicate, I take that story and I just I translate that to different images onto a big sketch pad. And then I go back and forth between my client and I until we've got the right design and we've got all of that correct. And then that goes directly to the graph paper. And I mean, all by hand. I don't use AI. I don't use Illustrator, you know, where it's the pad. I don't know. I am more terrified of the computer technology that goes along with Illustrator than I am going through a million erasers. And so it's just all by hand. So I still do employ the drawing side that has always been a passion, but no, beading is my medium. You know, I've had people say, you should paint this or you should do this. And it's like, well, you should do that. I bead and you should paint. And that's great. And then we can like just marvel at one another's incredible creations. But yeah, beading is it's my medium. It's where, you know, whatever that other side in the ether, I'm able to just freely hang out and bring back with me and create tangible pieces on this side.
That's cool. It's interesting to hear you talk about how you sort of like to and prefer to avoid technology, advanced technology with your creations. And I think there's something to be said for that. And even like a band like TTB, their sound has a timeless element. It's like a very throwback sound to it. They do, I'm not an expert on recording or the technology side of things, but they do sort of do some analog things and vinyl's coming back. So I think as long as you're grounded in sort of some sort of like timelessness and naturalness and what it is to be human, maybe there is room for taking advantage of current technology, but to lean in the direction you're doing it, I think there's something obviously purely human and great about that. AI will never be able to duplicate, you know.
There isn't soul. Yeah, there isn't soul in it. And I have to watch myself not get too, you know, vehement about AI because plenty of people do use it. And maybe for some people that is an amazing tool for them.
That's the key word.
Yes. And that's fine because my skill level and my craft is my own. And the parts that I embrace, it just means everything to me. I mean, it is my release. And I think that there is a lot to be said in keeping those native and cultural, just those, what I've inherited, those techniques and those skills just alive in a pure form, which is no sewing machines and no Illustrator and no computer graphics involved. It's just, it goes from my heart and my mind and my client's heart and my mind to the paper, to the loom, onto the leather, and it's all by hand. And it's really wonderful because when I'm in that space, I can, I've gotten to know so many of my clients really, really well, right? I've established really beautiful relationships with many of them. And when you open up into that space, I'm hearing their life stories. And so I'm taking all of that in, and I can apply the healing that they've talked about, or the manifestations that they talked about. And sometimes that's what gets poured into, well, almost always that's what gets poured into the piece. And sometimes it's so touching and I can relate to it so much that it's also my work, my spiritual work. And so much of my heart goes into the pieces that I don't know how AI could come in and do that. And I can't imagine a sewing machine. My grandma and my mom were both seamstresses, and my daughter, she's amazing, with the sewing machine. She can do it all. But the idea of this needle coming down at my fingers really fast is just too much for me.
No, I appreciate
that's terrifying.
I appreciate all that. And I feel like maybe even me 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, what you're saying might not resonate with me as much. Like I might not have been open to like more of these sort of maybe like new agey type ideas and whatnot. But just the fact that like, you made like, for example, a strap for Oteil and he knows it's made by you. Like just knowing that you made it and you guys are friends and this and that, it has more meaning. And if it has more meaning, he's more like the way he described and the way a few of the artists described that you've worked with, like it makes them feel more like themselves. That's such an interesting thing. And if you're more like yourself, you're sort of maybe even more confident, you're more relaxed, you're able to be your best self. And that's like a true gift and something that you can give to people. Maybe me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, would look at it more like a shallow, superficial surface level thing. Like, oh, that's a cool guitar strap the lady made. Oh, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But now it's like, wow, it really gives deeper meaning to everybody involved in the process. Even the fans consuming the music who are taking pictures and then looking back at their memories. Like there's so much connection involved with. I'm going to be jumping all over the place with this.
No, you're absolutely right. It's so true because it is inseparable. What the musician feels goes into the music, right? And they're already talented and successful as they're up there playing. And it's such an honor to be told things like that. When Oteil said that, to our mutual friend Lisa, who makes his beautiful shirts, he said, when I wear these things that you girls made for me, I'm just like, I'm dressed and now I'm wearing how it is I feel inside after all of these years. And it's that, what an amazing honor to be told that, that we had anything to do with that as a part of that. Yeah. And that's a shirt that she had made. Lisa Plume Designs made that. And then of course the strap goes with everything, even if it doesn't match. And just look at him. Like it's just so amazing. He just shines, which with or without the guitar straps and shirts, he shines. It really is amazing when they say to you, when a musician says to you, I just feel differently with this. Chandler Kinchla from Blues Traveler, he said that he was the first one to say that. The first time he wore his strap, because he was the first stage musician that I ever strapped. And after the show, he was like, oh my gosh, I'm more Chan now with this than I've ever been. And I don't know if you've ever met Chandler, but to have something to do with being more Chan.
I was reading the stories and hearing you talk about him with
like he's so great, So yeah, and they're an amazing band. And yeah, it just really is. It's an honor to be part of them feeling more comfortable, because when they're playing and they're more comfortable, or they just feel, think about it. When you get gussied up and you go to a show or you go to dinner, like you just feel like it's amazing. It feels good. So they're on stage doing that, and everything, if somebody's sad, it comes through the music. If they're happy beyond reason, it comes through the music. Whatever the case is, it comes through. And the crowd, we in the crowd, we respond to that in the purest, most visceral way. That's music, right? It's a tale as old as time, literally, is through their vibration, is the expression of what they're feeling. The vibration of their instruments is a reflection of the vibration of their inner emotions, and then we take that in and we're dancing and we're grooving and we're feeling, and it elicits all of these emotions in ourselves, and we're having fun with the people next to us, and then that's contagious, and we give that right back to the band, and the band knows when the crowd is rocking. You know, I mean, if the crowd's just like, that's cool, you know, the band is like, okay, dun dun dun, we're off. But I mean, when you're giving it to the band, they don't want to stop either. It's just this beautiful symbiotic flow of energy, and to know that the beadwork is up there dazzling and part of it, it's really, really cool, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. We can continue on the journey. Where like so you had your daughter and you started to get into beading more. Where were we in our, I guess, teens or 20s? Where did we kind of leave off?
Teens, yeah, still teens. Yeah, so graduated early from high school and beading, and then Julia and I traveled Pow-Wow for a few years and just solidified more and more beadwork and just learning more in that whole realm. And then she started school, and it was okay, so gypsy days are done, and you know, do your thing, stay home more.
Did she do beading also? Did she study or practice? Or
she's always been she can certainly call out a circa like, oh, that's mom circa 1997, you know, as far as my beadwork goes, or if she sees other people's beadwork. But no, I gave her a loom and we kind of sat and played a little, but she is an amazing pattern and seamstress. So she went to fashion school. She went to FIDM in California. Wow. So her creativity comes through in a completely different medium, and yeah, she's talented in that way.
But that's obviously, you helped cultivate that both with your genetics and the environment that you created for her, certainly. So you can, I think you can take credit for, you know, maybe a lot of that, where her path.
Well, you know, that we bestowed from the ultimate creator. But yes, like sure. We were all put into this little pod together, you know. Yeah, and she didn't really bead, but like I said, she did all of that. But she was always with me for all of it. So she was always, you know, she still is seeing me create. Like, she obviously, you know, when she comes to town, she's like, okay, am I going to watch you bead all weekend, or are you going to put it down? I'm like, I'm putting it down. Because it's hard to rip me away from the loom.
It must be just so satisfying when you make progress, when you get through a section. Is that what kind of keeps you going? Oh, look how good that part looks, and look how good that part looks, and then you combine the section. Oh, it's coming together. Is that kind of, it's kind of what gives you joy?
Satisfying. Because the pieces that really give you a run for the money, I mean, I get mad at them and I get so frustrated, but when you get past that little section, it just feels so good. Like, I was arguing with a simple little leaf on the loom for like a good 4 hours last night, just trying to get one little leaf. What is
the challenge? Is it something that doesn't look right, or it's a technical thing, or it's
the designs just not coming through the way that I imagined it, you know? And you don't know, because again, there's no illustrator. So I mean, I graph it, I draw it, I graph it, and I've got a good idea, but just because that's how it looks on the graph paper, it doesn't mean that the colors are going to reflect that initial image that I had in my head, or the curve isn't just right, or it's just not working. Sometimes it's just not working. And sometimes it has to be scratched completely and start over. In this case, I just erased the leaf. I think it was 7 times that thing came on and off the loom.
Do you go to anyone for feedback before you share the complete work with the artist? Do you share with your daughter or a colleague or someone from Pow-Wow?
Brady, my husband, and my daughter Julia, are the 2 most sounding boards. I'll send pictures of colors, which you cannot get through a phone, so that's even more frustrating. But always, they're my sounding board, and sometimes I listen and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I should have.
Yeah, that's
then I have to take it off anyways.
That's all. You can only, you know, get different opinions. You can't, you're not going to listen to everybody 100% of the time. It's funny that we sometimes go to our family for like these professional things or artistic things, even when they're not in the craft. There is value in getting sort of the opinion of someone who you trust and like and loves you and cares about you and supports you, but also is somewhat of an observant person and is not an expert per se. Like I'm still thinking about Derek and Susan when they're working on their I Am the Moon, their most recent, quadruple album. They are playing the tracks for their kids. They're talking about playing the tracks for their kids and like, oh, my son is crying, my kids are crying during this one, so I think we got a hit here, kind of thing. We're all like, so yeah, you can definitely gain feedback from someone if they're not even an expert in your field, I guess.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times where my husband's, because he obviously sees it all. I mean, my daughter is an adult and lives not with me or anything, but Brady sees every single piece all the time, and when he doesn't like something, sometimes it has to be, he just says nothing. I'm like, okay, what? And, and he'll be like, it's fine. And I'm like, you need to be, come tell me more. Sometimes he does the walk by thing and doesn't say anything. And I'm like, you can go. I don't need your input. But
each other. Each other well.
Sometimes he's like, that's the attitude. And then he was right. And it's hours of beating later that I have to succumb to the fact that he was right.
I pursue several creative endeavors, including writing. So I kind of get where you're coming from in terms of like the dealing with the feedback. You almost have to go through like a 12-step or some sort of like program, but like very quickly, because the first step, when someone tells you they don't like something about what you created, you're in denial. You don't believe that.
Hands on the hip. You don't know.
I'm right. You're wrong. And then you're sort of like, oh, maybe they're right, but I'm not sure. And then maybe it's like, okay, they are, but what do I got to do about it? Is it like part of it is like, our ego is bruised, certainly, but it's also like we have to do more work. It means more work, and we would all prefer the thing to be done. We all enjoy. I'm sure you obviously enjoy the process.
I like my journey. Yeah.
You like the journey, but I'm sure you also enjoy seeing a final complete and celebrating the completion, celebrating the successes, celebrating it with others.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But when someone tells you something is not working, it's like it pushes you further away from that moment, which is annoying and frustrating, I'm sure.
Constructive criticism, you're taught at a really young age to, what junior high, have somebody review your paper. It's constructive criticism, and it's never easy, but it's important, especially writing. If you're a writer, it's important. It's important to write it, leave it, come back, read it out loud. And a lot of times you can hear it yourself. You're like, oh, that just doesn't work. That's, you have to disconnect yourself. But when you read it to other people or they read it themselves, they're able to apply it. I'm all about it, when it's that. But if people don't, writing is such a personal thing because everybody has their own voice. And either people click with your voice of writing or they don't. Sometimes there's just bad writers. That's just true too. But you have to be open to criticism. And even with beadwork, like it's more just if it's not going right, if it's not doing well, it needs to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be right though.
Well, you're great at expressing yourself with words, both spoken and written, as well as, of course, with your artwork for sure. I'm not too sure that kids and people learn, and even myself, like looking back at my own education, I don't know that like receiving constructive criticism and giving constructive criticism were really taught or focused on or taught enough where like people like how to do it. And like you kind of learn as you go. It's like obviously it's best to talk about what works and what you like at the top of your criticism, whether it be written in person or however it's being delivered, and then kind of get into what doesn't work.
Yes.
And help the creator discover the solutions, not necessarily say do this, do that, throw unsolicited ideas at someone.
Well, even in college when I was writing papers, my professor would be like, this is really great. I'm like, I know, I nailed it. He's like, well, so we need to replace you with different words. And I'm like, he's like, because I feel like you're talking to me like this, and I'd rather have it be suggested. There's so many amazing teachers we have throughout life, whether they're a professor or they're just a friend who's like, I'd rather hear it this way. I don't know. I like learning. So that's good. And there's plenty of things that have humbled me in life. So,
yeah, it's almost like part of me is like, oh, maybe I should just be less sensitive that could be a thing. Or maybe like we can appreciate and there's value in like someone who's able to communicate ideas. You know what it is? It's almost like I think about like a coach or a quarterback who wants to be a leader on a football team, and they communicate with different players different ways. Like that's a way to go about giving criticism too. Some people like the tough love and need to be yelled at and can handle it and doesn't bother them in front of other people. They don't care. They don't have an ego in that way. And other people like need to be pulled aside and be spoken to sensitively away from others, like, and kind of like knowing and recognizing how people receive, I guess, criticism and feedback. It's like that's a talent and a skill, I guess, in itself, and something worth.
Well, that's a life skill. I mean, even accepting the fact that you know how you'd rather be communicated to, but you know, life could be a whole lot of rathers, or you can also learn to deal with the way that it's handed to you also. I mean, never in a bad way, like, oh, I'm just going to accept this abuse. But if this is just someone you care about and this is how they communicate and this is how they roll, and it's worth being like, okay, let me meet you there. This is how you do it. It doesn't have to be a hateful, you're not being mean to me on purpose. This is just your way. Try to remove that self, you know, that yourself from that, I guess, too. I don't know. I'm just sensitive, so
I get it though. Everyone always says don't take things personally, even if it is personal, but don't take things personally, and that's true. But how can you not? But also you can use it for fuel, for inspiration, for motivation too. So it's like, I don't know, just got to just keep dealing with life and moving on. And so where does the journey go from here?
Right, exactly. You know, and I think that's something so amazing about music is it does elicit. It can be like, this is a party, or it can drop you just to your knees. And it's bringing about that feeling. I remember after my dad passed, I got home finally from Michigan, and my husband had come home before Miles and we stayed in Michigan. And I don't know, like a week later I came back, and it was so sweet. He had the lights low and Susan was on the stereo, and you know, I mean, whether or not I needed to cry anymore, that's just what I needed to do, was get on my couch, lay down, and listen to her sing like an angel, because she is and does sing like an angel. And, you know, it brings all that forward. And sometimes that's just what you need too. And it's just to let it happen, let it all flow. And whether it's art or music, whatever that vessel is, it moves us, it finds a way.
Yeah, and it transcends time and cultures and history, and makes us, I think, uniquely human. Interesting.
Absolutely. You know, and like you were saying, like technology having, like you said, you jump around. Well, here I go too. Like technology plays a role in so many things. And with that recording, the way that we're able to record music nowadays, it is so much different. You know, I mean, these recordings of TTB and the way that they're going to be around forever with imagery along with audio, it's really sensational. And how that crosses over into the beadwork, because I mean, it'll last. It's strong. I have a piece of beadwork that's about 145 years old, and that wasn't nylon thread. It wasn't sewn on leather. It was definitely made with the material at hand 145 years ago. And you have to be very careful with it, because it wasn't made with the most incredible materials, but it's still intact. And I mean, the pieces I make, they're strong. They're not going anywhere. And it's going to be hundreds of years from now. People are going to pull the audio and visual file of like that Macon show, right? That just happened for Dickie. And there's going to be, somebody's going to be a collector and have these guitar straps. There were 5 different straps on stage that night between all the different musicians. And they're going to actually have that tangible piece of art right next to that, you know, amazing technical advancement in audio and visual files. And it's pretty cool to be able to know that both will exist side by side, you know, but having that tangible piece of art is just something else.
What is it? What is the materials that they're made with? That the beads are made with? Are they made of like some kind of a step below diamonds and like what are the materials that last?
Well, that'd be way more expensive. No, they're glass. They're glass beads. Many of them are cut though. They're like Czechoslovakian cut beads. So they're Charlotte cut. So a lot of them, when the light hits it, it's like a disco ball. It just grabs the light and shines so beautifully. But yeah, they're all glass beads, and I use nylon thread because it has to be really thin but really strong, because otherwise, like literally the thread and the needle will break the beads if either are too big, because the beads are small.
Wild.
Yeah, that strap is so beautiful.
Takes such meticulous work to put this all together, and like you have to have such a patience, I'm guessing, is something that's required for this.
I do for beadwork. I don't know if I have patience for much else, but I do for beadwork.
Maybe that makes sense though.
Yeah.
We only have so much patience, I guess, in our lives. Is it a finite resource? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, like for beadwork, I do, and even then I might lose my temper, but usually it helps. It reflects in other ways. Like, so it's calming for me. It's I mean, it's like I said, I can either be praying and manifesting and thinking about my client, and sometimes I'm able to do that for myself as I'm creating for other people. Oh gosh, they're so pretty. That Dickie Betts, that new guitar that was just, well, not new guitar, it's Dickie's 58 Gibson. That's now part of the family guitars collection. And I just finished that strap. The thing is so amazing. Those pieces, those front and back pieces, so Dickie himself and the mushroom, are called applique, and it's when you sew directly onto the leather versus on the loom work. So it's two different types of beadwork, but there's no way I would have been able to get that design from Dickie or that mushroom in such a small space on the loom, or the true curves or anything. But oh, it's just so pretty. I love that piece.
Where's the mush? The one on the right.
On the other end, yes. On the back, yes.
Oh, this is the same.
Same strap on the back, yeah. And
yeah, look at that.
The little awesome. ABB and the little stem. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, no, there's so many great details on all these, and I tend to do the same when I do my recaps with the for live shows with fans, and we pull up the posters from the shows. I'm zooming in on things. I'm like, oh, look at all this detail. I didn't notice this before.
Yeah, poster art's amazing. I love poster art. It's so fun to, like, you're at a show and you're glammed out and you're like, woo, and just really, really so buzzed from the show. And then you get home and you buy that memorabilia and you get home, you're like, oh my gosh, this piece is actually amazing. I love poster art. We have lots.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a source of inspiration. Where do you do? I guess anywhere and everywhere you can. Do you have a specific place in your home that you do?
Yeah, the kitchen table.
The kitchen table.
It is the kitchen table. If I did it anywhere else, I'd miss most of my life because I just bead all the time. I try to abide the rule that, like, once my son goes to sleep, unless something is due, unless there's a deadline, unless there's a reason, or I'm fighting with a leaf like last night, so I stayed up a little bit late, but I really try to shut down at 9 o'clock at night. I just try, because otherwise I would bead till midnight every single night, and it just, I'm not a workaholic in a bad way. Like, I don't feel like it's a problem if I keep it under control, but there's always more to do. There's always something waiting to be born. And so, yeah, I have to, if I beat it in the other room, I would just never be available for my family. And that's no good. I want to be in the middle of everything. I want to get up to do it all and, make the lunch and do all the things. So.
Do you thrive, not necessarily, I guess, in chaos per se, but do you like to be around the action at the same time, and you're able to sometimes even focus when there's not ideal environment?
It doesn't take away unless I'm struggling with something, like, again, the damn leaf, right? Which is beautiful. I'm beyond it, but like struggling with a piece or picking colors, I need silence. I don't like distraction if I'm picking colors. Like the music goes off, the audio book goes off, everything shuts off. And I literally have to stand up and step back and get all the colors out. and choose them and then step back, maybe text Julia and Brady, get some input, step back, pull more colors. But I definitely need my space and silence. And
I think there's something to that, like what you're just talking about. You need silence to make certain creative choices or perform certain tasks. I almost can't help but think of when we turn down the radio and we're looking for a parking spot kind of thing.
Yes, it's raining really hard. Turn the radio down. Like it's really affecting my vision.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like trying to concentrate.
But the fact that we all do these, and then there's been random articles and whatever memes and things that pop up that talk about that there is science behind the reasons why we do these things. So there might be something to do with that. Like I need to turn down the sound to focus on color. It's like a sense. Maybe it's like a sensory thing. Like you want to diminish one sense to focus to give more attention to another sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes absolute sense. I mean, when I was in college and studying, I can't read and to have TV and not read to absorb. So studying text, I can't do it with any noise. I can't have anything going on when I'm studying for text either. So that it's if it's going to be on a test or if I actually need to retain that versus, I mean, I can audiobook and the boys can be playing. I mean, I can... tons of things can be going on and I'm listening to an audiobook and beating away. But when it's time, just everybody needs to zip it.
Right. I think if you need to retain stuff, I think that's what really matters. Cause I'm getting a little crazy. Cause what I do, I'll sometimes be listening to a podcast, and now that it's baseball season, I'm like, let me see if I can listen to this live stream podcast as I have the baseball broadcasters on also. And just kind of selectively listen to when something's more.
You'll miss things.
Yeah. But again, this is the type of thing where retention is not necessarily the most important thing, or I might not need to prioritize it.
True.
But our brains are interesting, but limited too.
Brains are a trip. I mean, I think, that's a whole nother subject. The limits, I think, are, I think that we have been given certain parameters that don't necessarily exist that we adhere to, that we believe. And so there is therefore our capabilities. We put that in a box. I think that we're pretty capable of a lot more. But, here we are. Life struggles are also real. And then again, we do agree to those terms. So I don't know.
I think the powers that be keep us in the box, but that's really a whole nother.
Yeah, we shouldn't even go there.
Conversation. That's a different episode. Tell me more about your creative journey and when you started to work with various artists, and we'll get into
right on. Yeah, back to that. Avoid the world.
I love talking about all this. I love talking about all this creative stuff and philosophical stuff and metaphysical things. Not that I know much about any of it, but it's definitely interesting.
It is interesting. It's everybody takes in their own way. So beading, I kept beading, always beading, even when the kids were small. I got a job at the county when, it was in 2000. And I was a scale house attendant for for 15 years. And it was great because if there wasn't a truck on the scale, I was beading, right? So even though I worked full time, it was my time. And that was great. And then I was just I was creating for whoever I wanted to create for. My skills for design work definitely expanded. So when I traveled with Pow-Wow, you had to have inventory. It was so many barrettes every week, so many bracelets every week, so many pouches needed to be done. And it's always been just me. It can't be a team because it wouldn't be beadwork by Jenny. It would be beadwork by Jenny's minions. And that would be weird. And it would
even reproduce. I'm sorry. Can you even reproduce these items through a assembly factory machine made? Is that even a possibility?
Well, I think so. I see things that aren't well made. Or, maybe it can be outsourced to other countries where maybe people would work at a more affordable rate where they are following somebody's design. But here's the thing, just like the leaf, let's say I had a student, and I hope someday, I can't wait to teach someone to bead. That would be amazing for me. but it would be their beadwork. It wouldn't be my beadwork. I wouldn't be selling that as my work, whether it was a keychain or anything. It wouldn't be my work. That would be their work, but I'd love to pass on my knowledge. But even if I tried, I could, like, let's say I had this beautiful design and I said, okay, here it is, now go. They would just do what I designed. They would do what I graphed. They would base it on that, but they don't have that inner skeptic. They don't have that inner critic to know that, ooh, this isn't really looking good. I mean, I'd have to have the right kind of student that would say, this isn't looking good. What should I do? Now that would be an amazing student in a perfect scenario, right? Rather than just to be like, well, she drew it, this is where it should go, this is what I'm going to do. It wouldn't look good because a lot of times it's always just here and in the now, but if there's a mistake and something that needs to be corrected, it's in that moment. Like, it goes on the loom and I stand up and I look back and it's not right and it has to come off the loom. Chandler coined this de-beading. It was really funny. He's like, de-beading, it's a thing. And so it is a thing. I don't know if anybody else uses the word, but it is a thing. And so until it gets right. So if it was somebody else doing that work for me, it wouldn't be my trained eye. It wouldn't be my work. It wouldn't be able to problem solve in the moment if they were doing it instead of myself. So I couldn't. And I'm a control freak. I mean, not about people, but about what I do. Definitely, I don't want anybody doing my dishes, anything like this. I do like things done the way I like them done, but especially with my work. And it's mine, so it'd be weird to delegate, for sure. That'd be a hard one.
It didn't even sound like you like making replicas or duplicates of your own like material,
No, it would have to be different. Even if I took something very, very similar, there would have to be color differences. There would have to be something different. I did do, so the straps that Derek and Dwayne got for Christmas. So both Lisa and Susan ordered straps for the boys for Christmas to honor Dickie. And it was based on his original beaded strap. I mean, he has had so many beaded straps, Dickie, over the years, but this one in particular had burned in a fire. And Lisa, after Dickie had died, she's like, okay, can we talk about a strap for Derek or for Dwayne for Christmas? I want you to replicate this particular strap, fringe and all. And heck yeah. And that was really interesting because she sent these images and they're old, grainy images, right? From the 70s. And based on these two pictures, I was able to really zoom in. There was this one little seven line segment of that strap that I was able to actually, zoom in and graph out. And then I built the entire strap to a T based on those little 7 lines. That was really, really an amazing challenge, and such heart and soul and healing and love and power went into those pieces, because it's, I've lost a dad. It's awful. And Dwayne just did. And the love and respect, of course, that they have for Dickie, and the love bigger than life, along with the sadness of loss, all of that, and the respect and honor was poured into all of that for them, for everybody, for me on a very personal level. It was really, really beautiful. So that was an amazing gift. And then when Lisa told Susan that she was doing that for Dwayne, she's like, oh, I want one same, but different for Derek for Christmas. So those aren't, there's the one of their same, but different for Christmas ones. So Derek is wearing the one that I made for Christmas. And then Dwayne had one that was different colors, but the exact same design. And Dwayne's has the fringe, and then Derek's didn't. But that was so amazing. And that is extenuated circumstances of using the exact same design, of course. And also just completely piggybacking on somebody else's traditional artwork. I mean, because that original Dickie strap is seriously traditional artwork. I mean, that was old school loom. You could even see when I zoomed in how it was sewn together. It was just so incredible. And not that my work isn't traditional. I was, taught everything at Pow-Wow from the traditionalists, but it was neat to make that same and different for their brotherhood and that camaraderie, and just honoring Dickie in that way. That was really cool. But when it comes to somebody else, because people will say, oh, I want a strap like Dwayne's. It's like, well, no, that's Dwayne's strap. But that's a beautiful traditional Native American geometric image, and we can build on that. I can bring elements, tell me what you like most about it, and we can bring those elements to life. But no, I would never recycle their straps. I would never recycle any of them to a T ever.
Yeah, I almost sounds like someone who would say something like that. Make me a strap like Dickie's or Dwayne's. They almost like necessarily don't know what they want. They don't know how to articulate what they want. They probably want something deep down that speaks to them specifically.
And I'll do that. And that's part of what, like, I've had plenty of people come to me, especially after the Macon show, and say, I like this about their straps, and I want it to feel that same way. But of course, I want it to be mine. And so that's also part of the beauty of what I do, because then it's also eliciting certain questions like, do you want to be a purist and do you want it to be just Native, or do you want a certain image somewhere in there that speaks of a certain thing? Like, do you want, I don't know, people put dogs on their straps, right? Or people will say, this certain flower reminds me of my grandmother, or the book is full of stories. There's so many. Yeah, the book has got so many great stories in it. It's really amazing. And working for collectors is really cool because, man, they know their facts. These collectors, they know so many facts.
Guitar collectors?
Yes. And equipment collectors. I mean, there's people that collect microphones and PAs and all of this stuff, and it's just really amazing because they can document when, where, what songs. And so when these collectors come to me and they say, like, for example, I'm working on the strap right now is going on Bob Weir's, it was his 88 modulus black knife, so like there's an 88, and there was a rainforest benefit that it was played on, so it's just going to have this really cool rainforest vibe through the whole thing. And the rainforest backstage pass had this Black Panther, so it'll have like a part of that on it. And there's just like all these different elements that speak to these people, whether it's a collector or a personal person, or just whoever, a musician in the garage or a musician on a stage, like what speaks to them and what is important to them. And that really, really changes over time. Like Oteil with his first two straps, it was just getting to know him, right? And listening to all of these things and stories about eagle feathers and what calls to him. And I drew up a bunch of different designs. And honestly, it was a matter of piecing them together. He's like, ooh, I like this one with that one. And so it was just a big crossover. But then I was listening to stories about eagle feather that he was gifted once at a ceremony. And so that tied into one of the straps. And it's so neat because when I look at that piece, the first two pieces I made him, they're gorgeous and incredible. And then I made him an Oteil from Egypt strap that's all applique, and that thing is just unreal also. And that was after knowing him for about 2 years. And then the last strap that I made him, it's interesting because in the book I discuss how vibrations and how we interpret vibrations, and there's vibrations of all sorts throughout life. Life is a series of vibrations in all different forms, feelings and actual, that's the Ankh strap.
That's the Egypt one, right?
Yeah, that's all applique. So that's directly onto the leather.
Super unique one.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And so after having known him for as long as I have, and our friendship has grown and we've gotten to know each other, and it was finally time to bring his latest strap to life. And it was really neat because the lines are different. The symbology is different. Just everything is so much different. And knowing the vibration of our friendship as it's grown has translated into the actual images. I think that his latest strap was out after that book. Yeah, it was. The latest strap isn't in the book.
Do you think that if you showed like OT or showed random people, 100 people, like the first 2 or 3 straps you made for Oteil, they'd be able to tell, the average person would be able to tell, oh, this one came first, this one came next, because I can tell that you know more about the person because there's more detail or there's more bold choices in the design, there's more comfort. Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not. I don't know.
But you and Oteil can sense those.
We know. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
his past lives are in that. His latest strap. I mean, like it's we've, you know, there's a lot of things. There's things that are unspoken that made it into that strap that are just really, really crazy that came to life after. But that's true in a couple different examples.
That's true in music. That's true in music. Like
absolutely.
You can appreciate the song on a surface level. You can appreciate just the lyrics. You can appreciate the whole thing. You can appreciate the subtext, the meaning of the music, who the song is about, the sound that influenced it.
Yeah, because we change. Like our stories change. Like we all change. So what is it? Lion Eyes, right? That Eagle song. How many times have you heard that in your whole life? I've heard it. I don't even know how many times I've heard it. And I know every lyric. And I remember I was visiting my daughter in college and we rented a car and went down to the coast. And I think we were on our way to Half Moon Bay or something. And that song came on the radio and I was in the back seat and just singing along and it just hit me. And it was so sad. It's such a sad, lonely song. Like it's just, and I just was bawling. She's like, Mom, you okay? And I'm like, no, this song is breaking my heart. And she's like, well, it's not the first time you've heard it. I'm like, no, it's probably the 1,000th time I've heard it. But the way that it hit me, because our life experiences change all the time. It's ever evolving. So that means that how a story, a song, a moment, anything is going to hit us, it's going to be different. It's a whole new day. So yeah, you know, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that like you and even Oteil were talking about how what you're doing is with the straps is you're basically making a work of art for like a specific person, and not even a collector, for a person who I guess is an artist themselves and is going to use that.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's any other craft that's sort of similar, or art that's sort of similar, where you're actually just making one thing for a person of one, essentially, or whatever.
Well, like in any respect or music, I mean, there's custom stuff all over, right?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. There's everybody, how that fits that person. As far as the guitar straps go, I don't really know if there's anybody else doing exactly this, not by hand. I mean, and even if they are, I guess it's not, I mean, that's their art and that's their craft and it's their vision and it's their translation. And it's amazing. I'm sure I'm absolutely all beadwork blows me away. I love beadwork. I don't care who's doing it. I love me some beadwork. You know.
Do you have I mean, I think it sounds like you just love connecting with the artists and taking on the challenge of making something that's uniquely them. It speaks to them and speaks to you as well. But do you have a specific like genre or style that you gravitate to or would love to do more than the others, whether it's the native style or something psychedelic or something more novelty or Egyptian, or like, do you have certain styles that you
I always want, I mean, Art Nouveau is definitely my cat's meow. It's definitely my cat. Like, I love Art Nouveau. Like the design on the front of my book is very Art Nouveau. It's that 1920s, like 1800s to 1920s. Well, the font as well, but just the design work on the outside, the border work that I drew for the cover of the book, because that's an actual beaded piece. I actually have that tapestry.
The
beadwork, not the font.
I keep going like this.
I know you want to. I know you want to feel it. My book designer.
That's great though. It has depth like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Art Nouveau and Native and Art Deco is just so, the lines are so powerful and it's just so like bright lights, which is Great Gatsby, right? You think of like the Great Gatsby in the Roaring 20s. It's just so bright and lights and like the marquee and I love it so much. And Native designs, it just speaks to me. That flows obviously very, very, very powerfully in me. And so everything I was taught was Three Fires powwow, which is woodland design. So obviously the geometric designs, I can see that and I can feel that and I can be in that space very, very fluidly. The thing I loved about the woodland designs when I was learning beadwork is you learn the curve and the flow differently because it's very floral. Woodland native design is. It's very floral. And I remember the first time that I drew something and I took it beyond the border, if you will. So there was this border and I took the floral design outside of that. And I was like, oh, this is fun. But that all took time. It wasn't until I stopped traveling powwow, I guess it would have been in 1996, that I stopped traveling powwow. I did local powwows, but I stopped traveling. That's when I was able to do less just inventory work, and my looms got bigger and I was able to step into tapestries. And the nice thing about tapestries is you're not just given this, it's a beautiful challenge, but the challenge with the straps is you have this whole story to tell in 2.5 by 32 inches. Right. So that is a beautiful challenge. But once you get into the tapestries, like the images get bigger and you're able to do more shading and you're able to add depth, and whether you want it to be graffiti art or anything of that. Yeah, that's an incredible piece. Yep. And the leather comes into play in such a cool way. And it's, both of them are great.
This one here, like, just, I don't know, this one really caught my eye.
It's big too. It's a really big piece.
About this like color, this like fiery color, and juxtaposed against the blue, it just like really pops and jumps off the page and just like exudes like this like warmth, like almost as if you have like a fire, like
and ancient. It's ancient,
right.
It takes you back, it takes you somewhere.
It's this cool, like if you have this in your home, you're real, like this will create like atmosphere, like my parents have a lot of Native American pieces. They're very into art and of all kinds, for sure, many kinds, but especially and including Native American art. They turned my childhood bedroom into like a Native American room.
That's awesome.
I've mixed feelings. It should be a shrine to me and my child. They're like, no, you don't live here anymore. We're turning into just like a.
Oh, you mean it's become now? Now it is the shrine,
right?
No more baseball posters on the wall.
No, they took away my baseball trophies and whatever. Now it's like no, but it looks cool, and I don't know. I think it's not an accident. I think that some of these designs have found my life or become part of my life. My parents, enjoyed, and a lot of the music and Derek and Susan, Derek Truckspan, going back to Derek Truckspan, a lot of the poster art really leans into the sort of Native American.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such an honorable culture. We started talking, we tangented away from the Pow-Wows. And what they are is it's like church. It's what it was like for us, is you show up when you're on this side of the powwow, you show up on Thursday. Everybody sets up their camps, their booths, they set everything up. But the drum arbor in the center, you bring in the cedar and the sage and the sweetgrass, and you cover the arbor. And of course, this is different. This is what I know. This is what I was taught with the Three Fires tradition. But they would come in and they would they'd have a blessing ceremony in the circle. So there's a designated circle area where dancing happens, and in the center is the drum. And then there's the arbor. And all of that goes in, and you build up this little community. And then from opening ceremony on Friday night until closing ceremony on Sunday, dancing is praying, right? So the drum is the chanting. It's allegorious to if you go to a church and there's singing and there's hymns, it's the same. And it is a sacred space. When you're in the dancing ceremony, like Julia was only 4 at the time, but she knew when you walked in, you go east and you offer tobacco, and then you continue to dance. And if you ask for anything, you offer a little tobacco bundle, and everything is intention. And at powwow, that's what it is. And there's different powwows. There's competition powwows, and then there's traditional powwows. And there's 2 very different vibes at those powwows, for sure. I definitely prefer the traditional powwows, although dancing and the outfits at competition powwows are, man, they are out of this world, because it's the best of the best. And some of these outfits, their beadwork is like 100 years old, easy. This booth that I traveled with for years, the Shenandoahs, they had these side panels that the great grandfather had worn in ceremony. And I mean, they were still intact, the most beautiful colors. And it's almost like church, but it's also a way to invite all cultures to come respect and learn about the Native American community and history and culture, because it was suppressed, right? For the longest time, it wasn't cool to admit that you were Native American in the 1950s. In the 1980s, they were not necessarily, not all, of course, but by and large, a lot of people I traveled with had stories from the 80s where they were taken from the reservation, put into public school, and beat if they spoke their Anishinaabe language. And that's such current history, it's really, really hard to wrap your brain around that here in the States, that's true, but it is true nonetheless. And so it's just, when Pow-Wow started, it was in the 70s, and it's like, let's, with confidence and pride, come together and keep our heritage alive and keep these traditions and these songs, these chants in our language and our art. Let's keep this alive, but also let's share the beauty of this culture and this community with the whole rest of the world. And so that's what Pow-Wows are. And especially in the summer, they happen all over. Julia and I primarily traveled in Michigan, up a lot of the UP, which was great because it was way less humid in the summertime, because Michigan gets humid. And as soon as you cross the bridge, it gets better. And plus it's a little more traditional up there, up in the UP. There's more reservation area. And then, of course, sometimes down into like Ohio or something of that nature. But that's primarily where we went to Pow-Wows. And then I'd always wanted to go to Gathering of the Nations. Always. It was like always my dream since I was, traveling powwow starting at 18. And it wasn't until, when did Oteil and I go? I want to say it was 2018. Is that right? We went to Gathering of Nations, and that was powerful beyond reason. It was everything I imagined it would be. I tried really hard to hold it together and not be over emotional. And it was the first time I met Jess in person also. So that was really, really cool. So of course I didn't want to be like the crybaby, like overwhelmed with emotion. But I just am. So I was. But at one point we're all standing there, 4 of us are standing there, and it was grand entry, and grand entry took, oh my gosh, it was so long. There were thousands of dancers that came in, and they came in from all different corners of the stadium, right? So they came in each, and then they were set up in different ways, and there were different songs. And I love a jingle dress dancer. So there's these beautiful cones, and they're all over, and just the sound that it makes. I've always preferred a jingle dress dancer. And just to my right, they did this. They on recording rather than live, they brought this drummer who had been around for years, and he had recently passed, and he just said, the announcer, the MC said, so this is for all who have gone before us. And my sister had passed not too long ago, Kofi had passed not too long, and it just all happened at once. And then the jingle dress dancers came in next to me, and it just, there was no stopping it. I mean, it just felt like every ancestor and just all the feels. And so I was a crying mess. And I looked over at Oteil, and he was like, I had it together until I saw you crying. And then I lost it. And we were just like
contagious
babies for a minute. Yeah. Because it's just powerful beyond reason. It's just so beautiful. And Gathering of Nations. So they all come in and they just keep dancing, and they keep getting into this spiral. So the very first dancers are dancing the entire time, and they come in and they just like spiral in and get tighter and tighter and tighter until that very first dancer's in the very center, and they've just all spiraled around each other. And it's just this huge dance with drum going, and it's just of a different dimension right there in Albuquerque.
We're all seeking these cathartic moments, both with in ourselves, and like I think kind of like shared with other people, and sometimes even larger groups of like people, whether it be through what you're describing or through like a church or at like a TTB concert. It's always such a cathartic experience. The end, you feel like you had a journey, a spiritual experience, and again a cathartic experience. Like I've talked about this over and over again on the podcast, even at a sporting event, when you're on the same page, so to speak, with your town, your city, people around you, and celebrating. There's something that's like very human, or a release about that. That's certainly interesting. Do a lot of non-Native American people, Americans of all kinds, show up to Pow-Wow, or is it more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's different, like I said, there's different levels. There's the traditional, and then there's the competition powwows. And so they bring a different crowd also. But yeah, absolutely. Especially Riverside. So Grand Rapids has a really good representation and cohesive community for Native Americans, the Little River Band. And it is really, really amazing. So they have 2 powwows a year right down by the riverside. And yeah, I mean, you can almost guarantee that you'll see the same people, whether they're Indian or whether they're not Indian, at the powwows every year. Because it's a beautiful culture. And once people are turned on to that, it's hard not to be drawn to it. It's hard not. I mean, if anybody goes to a powwow, for days later, you're going to be smelling sweetgrass and you're going to hear the drum. It's just with you.
It's an uplifting. You feel uplifted and you feel rejuvenated. And like I'm saying, like we're as humans, we need that. We're looking for that because life can be a little bit challenging from day to day.
Yeah, it absolutely can. I mean, and that's why it's important to go see live music. I tend to be a little bit homebound, and I like to be home, and every now and then my husband's like, we gotta get out of the house. We gotta go. I'm like, you're right.
Can you do work outside? Are you able to take the loom and your work outdoors, work on a deck or at the beach or somewhere? How is that?
Not loom work. Loom work is at the table. That's all there is to it. You can't do that outside, but I could do applique outside. I could do design work outside. I can do finishing work outside. So like here is a strap. Right, it's my son's strap, but like you can see, I don't know, maybe you can see how.
Oh, he plays. That's awesome. Do you play? I went to ask.
Well, he's learning, right? But because we got him a guitar like when he was 7, and so now that he's 11, it's kind of cool, to learn how. So he's learning, but like all of this fine stitch work, it's all done by hand, right? You can see on the edge, so that I can take outside. Some of it I can take outside. Design work I can do anywhere, usually applique, like for plane rides. It's a great place to get design work done because you've got, 4 hours. It seems like everything's 4 hours from the West Coast. So you got 4 hours on the plane and that's what you're doing, so design work and applique can go with me.
Do you play guitar?
Nope. I can do Iron Man.
Okay. What about singing or other instruments?
I don't know if anybody wants to hear me sing, but sure, I can sing.
a little bit.
I mean, probably not. Like nobody wants to hear it.
I got you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like, looking at your work. What is there any sort of consistent aspect of the creations from one strap to the next? And the only thing I could really think of, and it's a word I thought of last night, and it's a word you used over and over again, it's just that there's like such intention with each of them. Maybe I can't think of maybe a style choice that might be overlapped, because it really depends on the musician and what the assignment is, so to speak. Like, so you're gonna get the spaced out stuff, the native stuff, the novelty things, people's pets, you got all kinds of items, and people's tattoos. So I get that. But other than intention and maybe precision and love and care, is there any through lines thematically or even artistically with the visual aspect that you?
I mean,
color, maybe colors. A lot of some of the no, you got all the colors variety.
No, all the colors are specific too. I mean, there's vintage, there's earthy, there's electric, there's bright, there's primaries, there's all the different things. So it's all just the story that's being told. I guess the cohesion is me. You get me.
That's it. No, that it really is, because that's part of your gift. I think is that your ability to sort of absorb the essences of all these different musicians through your diligence as an artist, and be able to ingest and digest and then express through your work. And that's a gift to like be able to relate, and beyond just relating, but I think like
listen.
What's that?
You listen, a lot of listening.
Yeah, build these deep connections and of empathy and whatnot, and these and then that's there's someone who could translate what, like, I'm looking at designs, but there's like, obviously they're complicated, they're artistic, but there's like an alien somewhere that would be like, oh, this means this and this is what that means.
Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe
so
you can't.
It's funny because Dwayne's on Dwayne's strap, Oteil's always like, it's a spaceship. It's a spaceship. Did you see it's a spaceship? I'm like, I mean, now I can't unsee that it's a spaceship. So it's pretty interesting. I think that how it moves you, I think just like the way that a song can strike you at a different time, so can a story of a strap and how it relates to you. Like maybe someone doesn't have the context to be able to relate to a pet or a dad or a grandpa or a special needs child or anything until they do. And then once they do and they see a certain strap or anything, whether a song, a paintings, a flower, it doesn't matter. Once you've got a context and a way to apply that to a certain situation that evolves and changes every single day of our lives, because really we are just all a matter of context and what we correlate anything to. That's, I mean, my sister and I were only 17 months apart, and we're two very different people, grew up in the same house, same parents, no differences. And aside from nurture and nature, we still had our own context. Every single person does. Even twins have their own context because we just do have our own lives. We walk our own different paths. So you can say, a nice purple Cherokee tomato, and everybody's going to have a different reference as to what that might mean to them, or a dahlia flower or magnolia, and everybody's going to have their own context because that's what we are. And the more days we spend here in this dimension and experience this life, we have more contexts. So we're able to relate to different art or music or stories and images in different ways. And I think it's part of the beauty of my craft and the gift I've been given is I get to hear so many people's stories. I get to hear so many beautiful and sorrowful and adventurous narrations from different people all over the graph, and some are very intimate. And like when Amy Helm, when I made her strap, it's not in the book, it came after the book. There's amazing pieces I've done since the book, but her opening up and sharing some of the things that she shared was just really, really beautiful. And it's not my story to tell, but it was my honor and privilege to create an image that went with that. And so there's just a very deep connection once somebody has exposed their hearts that way. And and that that's for them to tell. It was just for me to bead. And everything gets left into the eye of the beholder. Maybe Oteil sees an alien spaceship in Dwayne's strap, but other people can feel, the warmth of the sun, but also the cool of the shade and the sand behind you. There's just so many different things that can be felt. And it's all just up to the individual.
Did you ever create something sort of on a subconscious, unconscious level, and then realize after the fact and be like,
holy
shit. that is what's that?
Yeah, the holy shit, I just did that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it was sort of it's not an accident, but it's like, oh, that's definitely my unconscious, even if it's just like a color choice or a pattern choice.
100%. Yeah, there's a couple pieces where that's happened, where it was so easy. There was zero debeating. There was zero conflict of color choice. It happened so seamlessly and so fast, which rarely does it happen. I think it's happened like 3 times where it was just that fast. And Dwayne's was one of them, where I did it and it just kept going and it kept going. I didn't second guess not a single second of it. And I stepped back from it when I was done. I was like, wow, that is just spectacular. Like, this really is, Oteil says it's a portal. And also Oteil's latest strap did the same thing to me, where I got it on the loom, and it took like a year of chatting and going back and forth for his latest strap before, which is the one that you've shown a couple times, the blue and the browns, of going back and forth with imagery. But once it was on the loom, that thing was just born. It was like the easiest delivery. Those two are both an example of that. And then also Chris Chu, his second strap I made for him. The applique part was really, really intense, and it was a big pressure. He was so cute. Like, after about a year after he had initially said something about what he wanted on the strap, he's like, where am I on the list? Where's, and I'm like, dude, you want me to bead your grandpa? There's so much pressure. I just, like, it's not like a dog. A dog is special, but like, it's your grandpa. Like, you want to get your grandpa right. And I did, and he's so beautiful. Grandpa Chu is perfect. But the beading portion, or the loom portion of that strap, same thing. Like, it was so natural and it was so beautiful, and it just poured out, where I stepped back and I was like, whoa, that's really beautiful. I did that. Like, I made that. Like, so it was almost an out of body creation, you know. There's a couple examples, and even the design work, there's a couple examples of where did that come from, you know, kind of a thing. I would say the first one that comes to mind is Anders Osborne, his strap, because he's an intense guy, right? He's an amazing songwriter and musician, and he's just intense. He's been through a lot, and he's not shy about sharing it, anything of that nature. And when he first called, he did a 47-minute download of his life and story. I was outside a local pizza shop, and I went outside and I was like, whoa, that is a lot. And he's like, okay, so does it take like 2 weeks? When is this gonna, I don't know what to expect. How long does this take? I'm like, first of all, I have to go home and to digest all of that. That was a lot. And it took months before I even sketched a single image down. And it was so much. I remember going to bed every night, just praying, like, okay, come to me, show me something. You have them up. It's a good one. Show me something I want to know. And waking up every morning and being like, okay, sitting silent. And I gave myself 3 minutes every morning to sit down and be quiet. And I don't know about you, but 3 minutes for me is really hard to do nothing. Like, 3 minutes of nothing that's a lot. It's a lot of seconds in those 3 minutes. So I would sit quietly for 3 minutes.
Is this the one?
That's the one. And it was so incredible. And so I finally started sketching out some ideas and transferring, in text back and forth. And he's like, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. And I'm like, okay, and go back to draw some more, and you're getting closer. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then like a couple weeks later, I'd send another image, and that I was like, ooh, when I did have that image down and I see the ... on the text, like somebody's texting back, ... And I'm like, what answer? And he called and he's like, whoa, that's it. But I have some questions. Like, why so much water? Like, there's so much water. And I'm like, I couldn't get away from water. I don't know. Every time I asked, what did you see? When I'd wake up in the morning, I asked myself, what did you see? And it was always water. And because he wanted duality, and he wanted his wife and his kids, and he did want, like, he talked about this beach that him and his wife went to and how special it was to them, and he's like, and I want a piece of you in there, and I want you to cast some sort of amazing spell so that it doesn't get stolen, because I live in New Orleans and things always get stolen, and so I want all of these things in here, so do that, and that's another level of, wow, it's a lot. And so he's like, how come the water? And I just said, I couldn't get away from it. And he's like, okay, I forget which one of the kids, but he's like, my child is a water sign. I think it's a son, and just like so much water. He's just all of this. And that came through because of his kids and his wife are the reason he has overcome so many things in life. And he's like, and then it's so Mayan. Like, what is with the Mayan? I'm like, again, it was like these doors kept opening. I kept seeing this ancient Mayan art, and this is my spin on it. There's no actual Mayan art that looks just like this, but that's the vibe I was spinning from. And his daughter's middle name is a Mayan princess, and he hadn't shared that with me. So it was just really neat that in that time and space that I allowed myself to be out of this time and space, if you will, to go tap into Anders and all of his story and all of that power that he hinges on for his strength. I was able to tap into things that we didn't even discuss. So that was a really intense example of otherworldly, out of body, you know. That one didn't bead so easily. I mean, it did, but it was definitely like, ooh, problem solve, you know, not just like go, like the way that maybe Dwayne's and the last of Oteil's were just like, all of a sudden it was done and I couldn't believe what I did.
Do you ever have I was gonna ask, do you ever have a very different experience where it's like
I argue with it
where there are artists like, make me a strap, and then you go make a strap based on, you know, with very little communication, and then they just love it, and it just kind of even flows even more in a way?
Each one has got its own experience, right? I mean, there's always enough communication to go by, for sure. You figure it out, even if there isn't much initially, and people say, I just don't know. There's a way to ask questions and elicit emotions, and there's a way to get a feel for someone. You know, like, even, do you want it crazy and busy, or do you want it to be clean and crisp? Like, are you a Libra? What do you want? You know, so there's different ways to elicit that information and that feeling, because it's all based on feeling. You know, how do I feel about how they feel about this? You know, and then meeting that place. It's really cool.
I follow.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, just no, every single one has got, I mean, I can remember stories, but I can remember sometimes what books I was listening to when I created certain straps. It's just really interesting to be able to.
And songs, like you were saying, songs that you're listening to.
Yeah.
Like, it all feeds into the creative process, I guess, and it comes out through the work itself. Do you have contemporaries? Are there other people in this beating guitar strap making world that are either competitors or colleagues, or is it more companies that are doing this?
I wouldn't ever think competitor, because I'm not competitive at all. So I wouldn't ever think competitor. I don't know of anybody else so Jody Head is the OG custom guitar making. She's been around a long time and she's amazing. It's completely different than what I do, but I don't know if she still uses beads, and I'm not sure if she's the one actually doing the work anymore. I mean, she's an amazing designer and her straps are incredible, and she's been around a long time. But I don't know of anybody else. I mean,
That's cool.
I'm sure that there's people out there doing it, and I'm sure that they're amazing. I mean, all beadwork is so beautiful. I encourage them to bead, and make as much as they can.
But you're the standard.
Well,
I'll do more research, but from what it sounds like, it seems like you're the standard for, I guess, is artisan the right word? Like, individual custom craft, you know, made personalized guitar straps for pro level legendary musicians. Like, that
are hand done. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but these are, I mean, not a lick of machine, not even the adjuster, not even the part that adjusts is prefabricated leather. I mean, I cut everything myself. I sew it all by hand. So I can't speak for how other people assemble that. I don't even have a clue if they would use machines or not. I don't know if they use sinew or not. I don't know. I don't know what they do. I know what I do. And if I see a piece of beadwork out there that's amazing, I'm in awe of it, for sure. You know, so yeah, I don't know who else is out there doing it. I don't know by
Yeah, I
name.
Google it and just like companies come up, kind of
Companies
thing.
come up and somebody isn't hand beading. Yeah, it's different.
And if they are, they might just be on Etsy or something. And not that there's anything wrong with that. And I'm sure other people make nice stuff, but you're the, like I was saying, I think the standard perhaps.
Well, thank you.
Who has this book?
Yeah, and I also made a book. It's a really pretty book. It's really mushy. I don't know how far you got into reading it, but it's pretty.
I'm jumping around. Yeah, I
pretty mushy.
It's funny because you say you listen. Is there an audiobook version of this that I can listen to as
no, you're somebody else.
You said you're an audiobook listen to, so I was almost like I'm looking at the book and listening to your podcast with Oteil, and you guys were talking about how you're like a mushy person or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat mushy, but you may be more mushy.
I'm pretty mushy. My husband's like, he's like, okay, so I've met mushy people, and then there's like Jenny, like pull it out. You know,
is he an artist or a creator or creative type in any way?
Yeah, he's an appreciator. So,
but that balances you out. Maybe he's like the more.
Oh yeah, and he's the best.
Whatever.
He's the best DJ ever. Like music constantly. He even shows me music that I wouldn't otherwise have discovered because, you know, if I know it, I'm going to tune in, and then that's great. And I've already known it. Whereas he's like, you need to listen to this, and you need to listen to that. He's so great like that. Or can dig out amazing shows, and yeah, he loves music. He's definitely an appreciator of art.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I've taken up a lot of your time, and I appreciate it for sure. I want to maybe we kind of touched on some of this already and talked about these people, but I almost want to hear a little bit more about your relationship with Oteil, and just give me like the summary, because it sounds like you have such a special relationship with him. And of course, he played with TTB and Kofi's brother, and I want to hear your relationship with Kofi, either in real life or through Oteil, and then any other Derek or Susan anecdotes are always good. Like, just tell me about the TTB. Let's get to the TTB.
Well, the TTB part is they're just like a part of our souls, right? What they create is just like the soundtrack of our hearts. They're so incredible. Oteil is my dear sweet friend. You know, sometimes even when there's business to get to and talk about, we don't get to it because there's chatting to be done or catching up to be done. You know, it's just always good to see him. And his whole family. I mean, Jess is just an incredible woman. And yeah, I love them a lot. I mean, just like you would love your best friend. He's a good friend. I really, really adore him. Antidotes are just antidotes, you know, different stories throughout time. I don't, you know, whatever, personal stories, silly to us maybe. I mean, there's times where we've shared and it's just really emotional. I was wrong on the timing about Gathering of Nations. That was before Kofi passed. So my sister had passed in 2015 and then Kofi in 19. But there was a lot of talk that went into preparing for that pain, or I don't even know. There was just a whole lot of praying for the whole family and Kofi and Oteil during that time when he transitioned. And that was really deep and really beautiful, of course. So the first time that I met Susan and Derek was at Kofi's funeral. And of course, it was very hard. It wasn't a great place to like really get down and get to know someone, because it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Imagine
what it was. They played in Asheville the night before the funeral, and oh man, that was really intense. I was like, how do you not cry? And she said, oh, I cry. And Oteil said that too. I'm like, how do you not cry when you sing certain songs, or after you've experienced some very personal things? And they cry. They're just professionals, so they don't make the same cry face I make, or have to go like
that. It can't cry every note of every song.
I
do remember that time period. I do remember not just even watching some clips that have come out on YouTube of the band being emotional, dressed in all black for shows for some period of time. You know, for
it was really hard. Yeah.
at least they were kind of wearing black, and you know, there were moments where Susan would break down, or you know, at certain parts of songs or certain songs, like you could tell that they were avoiding or wouldn't play, you know, in honor of Kofi, like you know, some of the flute stuff and some, you know, it's emotional playing parts of songs where he was featured prominently and whatnot. And then you know, Gabe Dixon trying to navigate that was a challenge too. Like as you know, you can't replace Kofi, but you know, he's playing the same instrument. You know, at least
absolutely. And I mean, that's what they do is they're healing as they're healing all of us. You know, I mean, what an incredible responsibility. I mean, gift, but also responsibility, because the show does go on, and it's important to know when, you know, to be able to say, hey, honestly, my real life is over here and I'm going to go do that. And the show can go on without me this time. You know, like that's a really, really hard balance, I think, for musicians. I mean, I can only speak from my perspective for them. You know, I can't speak for them, but it's an intense thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I commend Derek and Susan. Maybe they didn't even realize this entirely at the time, but you know, bringing on Gabe full time, I think was smart from a creative standpoint.
For sure.
Because he brings a different element than Kofi brings to the band, you know, with some different songwriting, creative talents, and obviously the singing and his own styles too. And and Kofi, of course, had the flute and whatnot. So they both have their own kind of like styles and different elements that they bring to the band. So it wasn't like you were trying to clone Kofi.
No, I don't think it's anything like that. It's, you can honor what was and honor what is. It's just true. Both can exist.
That's what's great about this band, is that they bring in all the other members with the thought in mind. We want you to be yourself. We want you to be, especially Gabe, where, you know, part of the deal with Gabe joining TTB is that he's going to get to sing some songs and bring some of his songwriting talents to the band as well.
I always look forward to more. I know trying to get to Red Rocks. That's like my dream concert this summer for sure.
Yeah, my dream concert was all of them.
I know. I just can't do that.
No, me neither. I get that. Derek, like your strap though, I'm guessing.
He seemed pretty darn happy at the Macon show. It was the first time that I got to see him wear it. And I asked Susan if he liked it, and she's like, "Oh man, we're all so happy." So that made me feel so good, and I can't wait to make a strap for Susan. I would make her 10 if I could. She's just such a gift to all of us. You know, she's just such a gift to all of us. So I can't wait someday to create for the Queen of Soul.
Yeah, that's coming next, I'm sure.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, I if you want, not that you have more sway, is that the right word, than I do, but I can tell other fans to tell.
It's okay. She knows. She's got.
Yeah,
we're good. Yeah.
People need to be. People need to be.
No, we're good. We just need to figure out what. You know. No, what is hard.
That's super exciting. And when the band does get back on the road, which is now that this year is flying, it's May already. But yeah, in May next month.
It's crazy.
Maybe we'll see your strap. Maybe Derek will be wearing.
I sure hope so.
I don't know how I it's not even something that I thought about much, like how many guitar straps do they have? Probably Derek doesn't travel with a lot of guitars, so I mean.
Right. I mean, I hope at least that's on one of them.
Probably 2 or 3, maybe.
Right,
I can't imagine more than 2 or 3 straps, even if you have triple the amount of guitars or something like that potentially.
Right,
you don't need a strap with every guitar.
I'd be happy to fill that void.
That's true. Well, then maybe I think you have collectibles and backup.
Yeah.
and things
I'm
like
not
that.
opposed to making more than what he's got. Yeah, it's you know, how's that? You know, I'm a mom of a kid, so like you got to strap them all. So I can't get Pokemon out of my head sometimes, and that's a little bit embarrassing to admit.
I was almost thinking about. I was going down a different avenue.
Oh, good.
Of your, I thought you were gonna almost reference your, because I did read about it and hear you talking about your campaign to get a strap to to Dwayne. To
Oh,
Dwayne,
hashtag
Dwayne Best.
strap one on Dwayne.
Strap on Dwayne, yeah.
It worked.
I mean that pun and that sort of reference is very hard to avoid in the field that you're in, and
It is.
It needed
It
to be
is.
referenced at least one on this podcast.
It's pretty funny actually. When I came up with that after a Blues Traveler show. We were hanging out, and Tad, the bassist, was like, "You need a catchphrase. Like, you need a big sticker that we can slap on our equipment, like a bumper sticker or something. Like, what can it be? Guitar straps." And he's like, "Strap one on Jenny," or "Strap one on by Jenny." So I have to give Tad credit where credit is due, because he came up with "Strap One On" by Jenny, and we laughed so hard. And that was years ago. It was years ago. I don't even know how long ago. It was years ago. I want to say it was at Gee whiz.
Would you say it was 2019? I think it was. Did I just read that correct?
No, it was before 2019. I think that it was like 2017. I don't think it was House of Blues like in 2009. I think it was like 2017. Anyways, one of the times hanging out backstage or after the show with them. And they're so funny. I love them, guys. They're so good. John Popper's so smart, and Chandler is so big-hearted and sweet. And so anyways, Tad came up with that, and I'm like, that's good. I'm going to keep that. And it wasn't until I think 2019 is when we finally did make the logo, the sticker.
That's what I was thinking of,
And my friend, Salem, he's a tattoo artist. And I'm like, I want, which is really hard for the control freak artist in me to relinquish that, that ability to make art of my notion. So I gave him a rough idea of what I was thinking for the artwork, and he ran with it and did an amazing thing. And it was "Strap One On" by Jenny, and loosely based on one of Oteil's original guitar straps. And I showed my dad. I'm like, "Dad, you want to see my logo?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I show him, and he looks at it, "Strap One On" by oh, Jennifer. And I laughed so hard because I was like, I could say it to my dad, and he thought it was funny, but it was funny. It is funny.
Yeah. Dads almost have to act like they know it's funny, but they kind of still have to be dad, kind of being a little bit about denial.
Oh, yeah.
Very mature. Very mature.
Too much
Jenny.
into it with his daughter, but he knew it was funny.
It worked though.
Your
campaign, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was
I
effective.
got Dwayne strapped.
And then you made the what was the first one was Dickie Betts inspired to, or the one for the tribute show was more or less.
Nope, those ones are the last ones. Those were Christmas this year. So the first, like Dwayne's original strap, that really beautiful one that you keep showing, that was after lock-in 2018. When did right before Neil Cassell died, right? It was that show. Was that 2018?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes. It was 2018, I'm pretty sure, was that one. And so it was right after that I made the strap for Dwayne, his first strap. And that was really cool because it was his wife, Lisa, and I. She's an amazing artist too, with just such a beautiful eye and ability. So she weighed in heavily with that, and it was really great. And so, yeah, that was that campaign. And then this year for Christmas, I did the Dickie straps for the boys. And then when Family Guitars got Dickie's 58 Gibson, that was right before the Macon shows. And one of the owners of Grateful, or the Family Guitars, he was like, "Okay, can we bust this out? I just got this. The Macon show's coming." I'm like, "Buddy, I love you. We got this." So worked really hard. There was like some 18-hour days for sure that made that baby come to life. But I mean, that's okay. I work good under pressure.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. Very beautiful artwork all around. I appreciate your time so much. The stories that we covered a lot. There's a lot to cover. Maybe
the book is good.
On, and we could catch up with what you're working on. We could dive more into other pieces that we haven't even talked about. I'll pull up more pictures next time and things like that. Anything else we should cover or you wanted to mention?
We talked a lot. I'm pretty easy to find if anybody has questions. And if you want me back, that'd be great.
For sure.
Yeah.
Why don't you let people know where they could find you, follow you, anything else you want to plug, promote?
Instagram, I'm Beadwork by Jenny. I'm pretty easy to Google. Shuman with no C. That's you pronounced it perfectly. It's just people usually spell it wrong.
Right. I was tempted to add in the C. It is true.
I know, because people want, and it's my married name. It's not my maiden name. So like, even when I first met Brady, I was like, I spelled it wrong. Because it's easy to do, but yeah. So beadworkbyjenny.net is where you can get the book, and it really is a beautiful book. It's timeless. I mean, that's one thing about it is, regardless, it's a really pretty one. It's a piece of art in itself, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again. I appreciate it. I'll give people my little plugs here and throw my outro up, but you can hang around for a minute afterwards.
Okay, cool. And then we can chat. Yeah.
For do the post game show or whatever.
I like it.
But thank you everyone for listening and supporting. I appreciate it. I'll get the audio version up soon for sure. Please subscribe, like, follow. Thank you to the band, the crew, listeners, supporters, watchers. TTB, Jenny, means a lot. Let's talk more soon for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it. Later.
Bye.